Hello, I'm John Stofflet with UWEBC as we look ahead to some of the great speakers we have coming into town for our annual conference on October 1st. And this next speaker is certainly one of them, Isabelle Zdatny. She is the head of thought leadership and experience management, XM Catalyst for Qualtrics XM Institute. Isabelle, thanks so much for joining us here. For those who may not be directly involved, but as you're going to probably say, should be in XM and CX. Can you describe what are they?
Customer experience is everyone's business across the organization. Even if you're in the back end, if you're in finance or HR, right? Everything that you do has downstream impact on that experience that customers are going to be having. We define experience management as the discipline of driving actions based on an ongoing flow of information about how human beings are thinking, feeling, and behaving. The idea that this is a discipline. Doing experience management well is not one thing that you do one time in an isolated part of your business. It is a consistent organizational habit that is ingrained into your culture and your operating processes. Again, everyone's business across the organization. The other thing I'd love to highlight here is that it is about driving actions. I think historically in the customer experience world, there's been a lot of focus on surveys and data and analytics, which is great. It's important, but insights ultimately don't drive value for your organization. That value gets created when you are taking meaningful, thoughtful actions on those insights coming in. As we look ahead to the future of customer experience, that action piece is vital. It's going to help people across the organization make faster, smarter decisions in their role that takes customers' experiences and perceptions into account as they're doing their day-to-day job.
And I think BMW is one of the clients you've worked with. They mentioned, of course, they make a great product, but you've got to be more than that today. Just using them as an example, you've got a great product, but you can't serve anymore. How do you expound on that of why XM plays in across the board for their customers and their employees?
First of all, we're seeing a lot more industries become transactional relationships, even industries that historically, like banking or auto dealers, that were more lasting long-term relationships. Customers today have a lot more options. It is easier than ever to switch between brands. XM Institute has some data around how customers decrease or entirely cut their spending after one poor experience. And it's a lot of them. And so delivering consistently excellent experiences is a differentiator in the world today when there's just a lot more parity in the market, right? And it is easier and faster than ever for your competitors to copy your products and offerings, especially as we look ahead. And companies who do XM well are going to be able to capture a lot of data about their customers. Almost every single action someone takes today creates a piece of data. When they're able to translate that data into personalized, predictive, emotionally engaging experiences for customers, that's going to help build those long-term relationships that lead to lasting loyalty. And that's getting increasingly hard. Customer and employee expectations are rapidly increasing. You need the ability of experience management to help you really quickly sense, interpret, and respond to what's happening in the world around you is going to help the organization keep up with those constantly evolving customer, business, and employee needs.
And unstructured data is huge now. And basically that's like unsolicited feedback, right? Like it used to be a company would maybe send out a survey every year and you get it in the mail and fill it out. Talk about unstructured data and why that really needs to be factored in. How important is it now?
Yeah, so unstructured and unsolicited are often bucketed together. They're a little bit different. Structured versus unstructured is the format of the data coming in. So structured data is like quantitative data. So like 5 on a CSAT question or 9 on an NPS question. And unstructured data is going to come in the form of text or video or audio, PDFs. And so that's a lot more information dense, right, than just a score. And so that as we look ahead and you're trying to create these emotionally engaging experiences, that's going to give you a lot more information than just like, oh, you got a 2 on a CSAT score. It's going to explain the why behind the experience. Unsolicited and solicited data is whether the organization is asking for it themselves, right? If you send out a survey, you're soliciting people's input. And so as we look ahead, there is so much unsolicited, unstructured data out there. There's social media comments, online reviews, your contact center conversations, right, are unsolicited, unstructured. Qualtrics estimates that 80 to 90% of customer experience data is now in unstructured format. So you're going to be able to capture, and AI is critical for this, right? Because these AI-powered tools are going to help you process those massive unstructured data sets that aren't really feasible to do. So it's opening up these kind of new vistas that are now available to us. As you said, they're continuous. So rather than having to wait and trigger surveys at some predetermined point, whether that's after an experience ends or an annual relationship study, you can just be getting these ongoing insights coming in. And as we look ahead, I don't think surveys are going away entirely because they are producing subjective perceptions about their experiences, unlike behavioral or operational data. So that's important. That's going to help us feed our AI models, help us make sure that we are able to create synthetic scores looking ahead of like if this customer has called into the contact center 3 times and they're part of this demographic and they said these keywords on the call, we don't need to send them a survey. We can just predict that they're a detractor and go ahead and follow up with them. I think surveys are going to continue to be an important mechanism for training those models, but they have limited scope. They have data lags. It's getting harder and harder to get response rates. People don't want to keep filling out these surveys. So I think they're going to become one input rather than kind of the whole voice of the customer program that we're seeing today.
You guys put out the laws of experience management, and we'll just talk about one of them. And the first one was, we like to think we're these rational thinkers, but tell us, how do most of us think? You study human behavior in this regard, and what have you found?
So this is one of my absolute favorite topics. I'm so glad you asked about this. Yeah, so there's a lot of research out of behavioral science, behavioral economics, particularly the work by Daniel Kahneman, Amos Tversky, on human beings actually have 2 modes of decision making, system 1 and system 2. And so system 1 thinking is fast, it's automatic, it's emotional, it's our gut response to things. System 2 thinking is the type of thinking you're doing when you think you're thinking. So it's slower, it's rational. And historically, we've just assumed, right? We use system 2 thinking to do all of our thinking. Reason is what separates us here from the animals. It turns out that is not quite true. People actually make most of their decisions using that system 1 thinking, that fast, automatic, intuitive decision making that's really guided not by logic and reason, but by heuristics and biases, right? Fluency heuristic, familiarity heuristic, status quo bias. So as organizations are designing people's experiences, it's important to keep in mind that we are not these completely rational decision makers. And so how are we creating experiences that appeal to people, not to automatons, and especially our target audience? What is going to resonate with our key customer segments? The things that younger consumers find easy and intuitive might be different from the things that older consumers do. So really understanding that people are not these absolute rational consumers of experiences and accounting for that as we're designing and delivering experiences to them.
And one of the other laws was that companies need to do something with all this data they're gathering. And I think we could just summarize it that way and say that it's great to collect all this information and all this data, but what are you going to do with it?
That goes right back to what we started this with, right? No action on the insights, no value. And so you need to be feeding those insights into a human-centered design process that's going to help you understand and account for all of those biases to produce positive experiences on the back end.
So, just a couple more questions for you, Isabel. You're going to be a speaker on the customer service track on October 1st at our UWEBC annual conference, and you're talking about the future of customer experience. Why should people attend this? What are they going to take away from your talk?
Yes, this is an area I am incredibly passionate about right now. We're at a very interesting pivot point in the world of customer experience where I think we're starting to move away from focus on surveys and voice of the customer. And if that is how organizations perceive us, if that is how we are selling ourselves to organizations, I'm not convinced as a profession we're going to be around much longer or on as big of a teams at least, right? Because AI can do a lot of that work of ingesting, analyzing data for us. And so I think we need to be consciously positioning ourselves to our companies as a strategic asset that is going to help them, again, make those faster, smarter, data-driven decisions that's going to help them succeed in this incredibly uncertain and tumultuous business environment that we are all trying to navigate right now, while maintaining a focus on the customers, those human connections that's going to build people's loyalty over the long term. So I just feel like now is the time to really think about what role do we want to play as we're moving into this new future, especially with all this AI disruption on the horizon.
The last question, I know it's a piece of advice you like to give. And the reason I loved it is as a journalist for 41 years, when I'd write a story, I always said to myself, I need to know where I'm going at the end of the story to know how to get there. And you're telling people read from right to left, but tell me why that's important in your field.
The world's a very complicated place. Again, going back to how human beings make decisions, we have to make hundreds, if not thousands, of decisions every day in our life as CX professionals, in our everyday life. And making trade-offs is really hard. Prioritizing what we should do, what we should focus on, what we should invest in is hard. And so if you don't have an end in mind that you can look to help you prioritize your actions, there can be a lot of good intentions that land up being very fragmented and not actually achieving your goals. So the ability to say, this is the outcome we're trying to achieve, right? For customer experience, maybe that starts with defining a vision, right? What type of experience can customers have when they engage with our organization? That provides a standard that everyone can then look to and follow when they're making decisions within their roles. If you don't have that, but you land up delivering very disjointed, fragmented experiences, as opposed to saying, these are the outcomes, this is specifically what it looks like. And then you don't have to take as much of a command and control style of changing people's behaviors. You can give them something that everyone is working towards and clear on, and then empower them to achieve that within their role.
Well, great. If you'd like to hear more from Isabel, you can come to the UWEBC annual conference. Just go to the UWEBC website to find out more about how to sign up. You'll get wonderful insight like you've just heard from Isabelle Zdatny from Qualtrics XM Institute. Thanks so much for carving out some time for us today. I look forward to seeing you in October here in Madison, Isabel.
I will be. It was wonderful to see you, John.